This is not just about me going up here competing today and getting bronze. No, this is about all the work I had to do before today. Hey y'all, this is Nothing Lightly. We're back with another episode. I'm C's and this is Dede. This one is going to be special because we are highlighting one of the greatest athletes of our generation, one of the greatest women, black athletes, black woman athletes that her sport has ever seen. And we just wanted to give our flowers, show homage, and pretty much bring light to her story. And when I say story, that is because this young lady, Jordan Chiles from Vancouver, Washington, one who we've come to love in the past 8 years on the Olympic stage, she wrote a book this year called I'm That Girl. And when I tell you this book is top 5, and I'm not saying top 5 I've read this year, I'm saying top 5 ever. And I know her handprint, her touch was all over this book. I want to ask her, did she write it from page to page? Because it is just that good. Like these moments, this had to just come from her. So I thought it was beautifully written. It almost brought me to tears. Just the adversity that she faced and how much that medal, the bronze medal, the deserving bronze medal that she won, how much that meant to her. So I'm so stoked, I'm so pumped for this episode. And let me bring the attention to my co-host who is going to get us started. Deja, what do you got for us and why is this episode so special? This is a special episode because we're highlighting one person. We did this before earlier. We did D Rose, and this is the second person where we just focusing on them. We're going to talk about gymnastics. We're going to talk about Jordan Chiles' journey. We're going to talk about some of her teammates like Simone Biles, just everything about this sport and the sport around her. You're going to, of course, discuss the controversy, but I'll start off with her accolades. We know that she is, part of that Olympic team. She has won several gold medals on an Olympic team. She is the Tokyo 2020 Olympic silver medalist, the 2022 world champion. She is the NCAA standout at UCLA. She's one of the only people that have went from college and still competing in the Olympics. You don't really see that. And she's the 2024 Olympic trials third place medalist before the controversy. So that's kind of where we start right now. We'll say on our podcast that in our book, she is the bronze medalist. Yes, that's important to recognize. But this is a quote that she said. There was no way that I could adequately express what I was feeling right then. The joy and relief and the memory of the pain I'd endured to get there. What's behind that bronze? Question. If only they knew. So that's on the back cover of the book. Once you read from the first page, she unfolds all of this. This is a life's journey. This isn't just a moment. This isn't just a flash of a successful season, a successful year, a successful 4 years. Deja, that was almost her entire life. Over probably 15 years of work. And they tried to strip it. But we will be on our podcast to say that she is the bronze medalist and the podium stands. It was an all-black podium, period. Yeah, so what I'll say, one of my first questions is, what do you get from seeing that all-black podium and then also seeing Simone up there and Jordan Chiles, both representing USA? That's a big deal because sometimes we only see Simone by herself, on a podium. I think in the moment, if we go back to last year, Deja, when it happened, it was like, wow. This is when we talk about chills, and we mentioned that in our previous episode. That is one of those moments that sports can gather or accomplish to give the fans chills. And if we as fans can get chills, imagine them. Imagine being in their shoes, or imagine a young girl, 3 young girls seeing this is possible now. It had never been seen, Deja. I don't even know if it had been 2, maybe 2. But to see every step of the podium was 3 that now represents us. That's huge. And I just love how they loved on her, Deja, how they congratulated each other. They did not hate. They did not show any disdain. This was 2 different teams that had medaled at that podium. And they congratulated her. That was a huge moment across the world, internationally. And you need that for sports to be that gap, to bridge the gap, to help unite us. And that's what it did in that moment. DH, that was bigger than that. That was political. That was groundbreaking. What do you think about it? I mean, it's just a moment that you'll look back when. I always think of the Olympics, and I've probably said this before. If I haven't, you'll hear it again. That the Olympics, what it does is it inspires a generation. So somebody that's a gymnast, or even if you're in another sport, that's always somebody's, that's what they want. That's what they look for. Not only I want to go to the NBA, the WNBA, or I want to do well in the NCAAs like Jordan Chiles has done, but the goal is to get on the podium, see to place. Because imagine, at the Olympics, 6,000 of athletes, but to just be able to get on the podium, and then not only are you representing your country, you're doing it with a teammate. And then you look across from you, they're sharing the same ethnicity, the same roots, the same struggle as you. That's something that it's going to go back and inspire a generation. It's going to put others on notice, like, hey, we're here and we're here to stay. That's what they did, and it's just inspiring. I'm not in a sport, but it inspires me in other aspects of life. Like, you want to be that person that you reached the top of the mountain. That's what they did. And you want to be in good company. You want to share it, Deasia, with people that you can relate to, or people that represent all of the things that you're about. So I think that was a beautiful moment. And that's not taking away any other competitors, but the world received that in so many different ways. But we enjoy in the fact that people clapped and noticed that this is the first, Deasia, and we hope that it be many others. And the sport of gymnastics, where we know it's a very rigid sport. And she highlighted that. So, all right. So the next question that I'll ask you is, what drew you to this book in the first place? Why this one? Why did you choose I'm That Girl by Jordan Chiles? And what was it about this book that made you so inspired, so captivated? Well, first, what drew me, it was just any day in the bookstore. I'm a sports fan. Sometimes when I'm on my nonfiction run, I will see what the sports section has to offer. To be honest, I didn't know that she was coming out with a book. But after reading the first page, it was like, okay, I gotta keep reading this. Because from the first page, she captures you. I think I was nearly, like, my lungs was getting filled. Like, I felt like I was about to cry in that first page. Because you remember that moment. Understand that this medal is still up in the air. And for her to have put this into words, I want to know what came of it. I want to hear the story behind it, of what brought her to those emotions, where she's sharing it, where I can almost feel it. And I know that's nowhere near close to what she felt. But what captivated me through this book is everything that she was very candid. She talked about a lot of things. Some of the things I'm sure this sport wanted to keep a secret. She talked a lot about the controversy, about previous coaches or previous doctors close to the Olympic team, close to the USA team. She talked about some of the living quarters that they had to, train in. They wasn't the best. She talked about the Olympic Village. She shared a lot of those moments that we kind of look at the glamour and the glorious part of being an Olympic gymnast or being a world champion. It's a lot behind it, though. She talked about a lot of the grit. We already know that they spend a lot of time. They spend most of their day practicing. But how was she able to make that work with her family? They're very spiritual. How did that come into play? So a lot of what she was talking about, I can relate to it. We trained hard, DH, at one point when we were growing up. Our childhood was filled with mostly basketball, track, and DH. Besides that, you was expected to get great grades. And we came from a very spiritual household, right? I can relate to that, and very close-knit. So, yes, we didn't train to the point of professionalism, but you trained to the point of there was a sacrifice that had to be made at a young age, and she talked about that. And that took a mental toll on her. So I can relate to that a lot. Yeah, I mean, just hearing it from you, I'm thinking of all the moments that, we did have to sacrifice. There was times when on a Saturday, we want to probably go hang out in the park or, go to things with our friends, but that was just not possible because we had games. We had maybe 5 games over that Saturday, and on Sunday we might have another 3. So there was no time for let's go do this and this, and not to mention our practice schedule throughout the week. That meant after school we was practicing probably 2-3 hours with our dad, you know. And after that, later in the night you might have practice at 7 p.m. and that might go to 7 from 7 to 10 in the city. Then you expected to go back home and do this all over the next day. Or get ready for 2 days later you got to do this again. Not to mention our Saturday practices with one of our AAU teams. That was a 5-hour practice. It was so long that we even had to bring a lunch. You know, at that age, I think that was like a tough scenario for a kid. And then parents wasn't allowed. So your parents literally couldn't come. It was a small gym. And I remember we had to take a lunch break. We had practiced 2 hours drills, a lunch break. Then we get into team. So imagine gymnastics here. And just listening to the stories that you've told me about that 5 hours that I'm sitting here thinking that was a huge sacrifice, they had double of that. And these are young girls. Yeah, she talked a lot about those moments when she would get with her friends, like, or doing stuff like girls want to do every day. Maybe it was important for her. Her hair meant a lot to her. You know, she would do most of the girls on her team, even the Olympic team, she would do everybody's hair because that was just like being normal to her. Like she wanted to hold on, like grab a hold of those pieces of her that wasn't related to the sport. So maybe it was going shopping, going to the mall. She talked about those moments like sacrificing, and sometimes she would just have to, and maybe it was being her she did say that her being a little rebellious, but she had to do it for herself to find that normal. How did you find your normal, Deasia? So for me, it was just, I would say, something that I always like doing, and it's funny we talking about a book now. It's just like having a book or something that, like music was always could be a good outlet. It was either a book or music. I remember when we was at one of our AU Nationals, the Lil Wayne album had came out, and that took me away from, okay, we got games and we trying to make it to the championship. And these are serious games. These are not the regular games where you play on the weekend. These are some big games because it means you, for once, you get the opportunity of winning an AU national medal. You know, this is what we've been playing. In other words, this is what the whole summer is about. Yeah, it's about looks. Yeah, it's about scouts. But at the core of it, it's about great competition. And this is the highest level we can get. So those games was pretty competitive. And so outside of that, I remember that the Lil Wayne album was out. And our dad went to get it for us from Walmart, and just after every game, just listening to as many songs as we could. But that was a way for me to be normal outside of the basketball and the noise of that. I wanted to have a say of what my own noise was and control that. And that was the Lil Wayne Carter 3 album. And then just as time went on, reading books, that was like an avenue for me, just reading a good book. And that would take me away from the world that I was in and put me into somebody else's life. And what was yours? I would say being normal for me was reading, or it was a form of writing. Like that was my outlet. Basketball was like natural, but you got to understand that this is it was becoming a job. It was work too, even though we enjoyed it, it was work. So what took me away, it was just like finding a book where you can live in this or be a part of this imaginary universe or whatever, and just take your mind there. And I think that meant a lot. Yeah, so as we move on to another question, I want to ask, since you're talking about, these journeys that you have as a young girl, what does it mean for you to say, like, in her book it's titled, I'm That Girl? What does that phrase mean to you? Well, first, let me give the audience some background of where that phrase came from. So she was self-titled. A lot of her runs, as we would call it, or just say it was this year, 2018, or this was the year 2020. She would title that year in her gymnastics run something. So one of the years that she did make the Olympic team, coined that year, or themed that year, I'm That Girl. And she ended up using that as the title of her book. It was just something that her parents would tell her. They would ask her, who are you? And she would say, Jordan Chiles, I'm that girl. So that's where that came from. But what does that mean to me is, it's something that I'm learning as a young woman developing. You're learning to be yourself. Be who you are. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't make sense to try to be anyone else. The older you get, though, you find that the best part of your story is you. You are the main character. And another thing that I just figured out, or I just came to, I won't say just figured out, but I just thought about, and I was thinking of this a few days ago. This is like how artists remaster. When you figure out, when you continue to develop yourself, you are doing nothing but remastering. And for me, that's answering the question. I'm finding out that I'm that girl, and I'm not who you are, Deasia. I'm who I am, and that is, I'm a young woman. I'm Black. I'm proud to be who I am. I'm a child of God, and I think that is the recipe of I'm that girl, but I am who I am. Now, who are you, Deasia? I would say, that's like a question that I'm still learning who I am. So you would say that I'm a retired athlete, I'm a student, I'm a child of God, but at the other core of me, I like poetry, or I like to watch movies, I like to critique that type of stuff, and I'm a lover of podcasts. And of course, I love sports. We wouldn't be doing this, So those are all things, but I'm still growing and learning other parts of me that I like. I learned that I actually like to, I think I like to basically watch others in their journey. And that's something that I found now. When you take a step away from sports, you have to be okay with, being a critique of others and, being inspired from a journey of the bench, in other words, from the background. I like that part of this. Yeah. I think overall, when she said, I'm that girl, it was a nod to herself. It was her motivating herself. And that is what, Deasia, what we're doing now. We're finding the inspiration in ourselves of us doing something that we've never done. We're still in year one of our podcast. This is new to us. But sports isn't. It's just finding out who you are. And when you do, it's beautiful. But again, it never ends. So it was just really a nod to her to motivate herself. What did you take away from the mental toll that she had to take on? We discussed a little bit about the sacrifices, but what about just the straight mental toll? We know how difficult that probably is. So just the sport, I put track and gymnastics probably on the same mental capacity. It's you at the end of the day. Yeah, they come together just like track do for the relays. They come together for the all around the team. But when it's just you, that if you was just on the bar, Sarah, or on the beam, how would you, how do you deal with that mental toll of it's just you? It's difficult. I'm not a gymnast, but I do, yes, I agree that it is on the level of track. It almost might be harder because they risk getting hurt, severely hurt. And she talked about that in the book. She talked about the potential of injuries. So imagine that. You don't go out on the track, and most of the time, I know me, I didn't expect to get hurt. But some of the stuff they did, it's almost expected, like this could happen. It's a fear in the back of their mind. So for me in the blocks, or leading up to the moment in the blocks, our race was the 400. We talked about this a lot in other episodes, that it's just so much anxiety that you carry, that we had to carry since young girls to young women in the blocks. It's nothing that I wouldn't wish that on an enemy. That type of pressure where you feel like you can't even eat what you want to eat. You can't sneeze almost, because if you do that the wrong way, you feel like you're letting it go. It's like, Deasia, you want to contain all of your energy for one moment. And imagine your mind, imagine your head. It's like, Deasia, you got to learn to compartmentalize everything. Everything in the back of your mind is leading back to this one race. But you can't really, you're going through the motions and everything else. Now imagine that, and you on the beam. You got to be able to flip on the beam, finish the routine, and land. And so she talked about in the book, sometimes it was just land on your feet. And that sounds so simple. But once you doing a tumbling pass and you 6 feet in the air or whatever off the beam, and you don't need, you in a second have to find the floor. Is that very easy? Not really. I can't even say not really. Absolutely not. It is extreme. This is like extreme sporting at the highest level. And I'm not even I'm laughing about it, but if you read this book and kind of she goes into great detail of the difficulty. It's off the charts. It's amazing. It takes me to a different I look at her, Simone Biles, Sonny Lee. I look at them all gymnasts at that level. I look at them completely different, Deasia. It's absolutely astounding. One thing I like from what you were talking about with the with track is just being able to save your energy, and we laugh about that, but that's essentially exactly what we was doing. We'll tell our mom, no, we not gonna eat right now. It ain't no reason why we wouldn't eat here. We literally wouldn't eat until that race was over. It's like you could not live your life until you had finished that 400. You didn't care about the 4x4 because you just did a 400, and plus that's what your team. But anything individual, especially if it's your race, I can only speak for the 400 and say until that race was over, I wasn't using no energy. Like if a friend was there, Sarah, I probably wouldn't even like, hey, and that's just how it would be. Some of our friends could be at a meet, Sierra, we wouldn't even crack a smile. And a lot of people be like, oh yeah, y'all don't smile because it's not fun and games for us. We're trying to get through this race. And see, that's kind of what she was talking about. She was bringing light to that. Like, sport kind of, it is beautiful. But it's moments, Deasia, where you kind of, it's just you. It's just really you, and it gets lonely like that, where you can't even be a child. You can't even be a kid. Sometimes we was just, I can remember moments, Deasia, we was 11 years old, and we was walking around the National Tunnel for our National 400 race. And we had been away from our family for like 3 hours. Now imagine Jordan Chiles being away from her mom at the age of 8 for 3 days. Just like put that, we felt so much anxiety, keep slowly moving through that tunnel, Deasia, until we finally saw some light and can get to the track. And you still shaking, like you're literally shaking. And not to mention the struggle of not being able to trust people because of the stuff that was happening in this sport. Yeah, we're grateful that our parents, like basketball and track was not like that, that they was pretty close. In fact, it was so close that our dad was basically our coach. Somehow he ended up being an assistant coach. Yeah, I like how you mentioned, how it was when we was growing up as far as it relates to our family. But I didn't say that to say her parents, they were very much involved. They are so much involved. Like they're still fighting to this day, just alongside her. For that medal, Deasia, all of her family was involved. Her grandparent, her grandfather meant a lot to her. Her auntie, her uncle, he helped fund, her journey. I would like to share that gymnastics was a very expensive. It is a very expensive sport, and she did it for so long. So it took a community to help make that possible. But just on those moments where she did have to travel alone, she had to trust her coach, and sometimes it was a lot of things that she talked about. Some types of forms of abuse or forms of neglect that was happening with her coaches. And I think that we do need to shed light on that. It was just also moments, Deasia. We know it wasn't necessarily us in our sport, but it was others. We had teammates that didn't have anybody. And Jordan Chiles, she wasn't saying it like they just couldn't come, Deasia, because she might be gone for the whole weekend or gone for the whole week across the country to live out her dream. Any sport is difficult, as we already talked about. This episode is taking a turn of mental health, which is a big topic, and it's something that a lot of athletes don't necessarily get to hear until maybe you're faced with some adversity in college or even in the pros. But just having your parents around through those tough moments or through the difficulty of these sports is not something that's easy to take on by yourself. You need that support system. Yeah, I would like to highlight, she really talked a lot about her mom and dad, but it was some special moments in this book where her mom said some, it had got so bad at one point that Jordan Chiles, like any athlete, you do want to quit. You want to give it up. But her mom asked her something, and I talked to you about this, Deasia, that, she was having a terrible day. She had got in a car and she just she told her, this is it. She told her mom, I don't want to do it no more. She couldn't even walk into the house before she told her, I'm done. And her mom said, I'm not going against that decision. But if you quit, make it be on a good day. Quit on a good day. Don't quit on a bad day. That is like, it takes the pressure off of, are you quitting for the right reasons? And are you giving up something that is your dream? Her mom, what I love about that is her mom was reminding her in a subtle way, remember your dream. Remember why you started this. It's not that you're not going to have bad moments, but remember your dreams, because you don't want to make a decision in the heat of the moment that you regret. And you always need that type of person. But her mom, I love that moment. I love that she shared that. And I've been there. Deasia, have you been there? And what does that mean to you? And yeah, we all had the moments. I mean, both of us, Sierra, where I would say, I'm just gonna be honest, we quit track like that, and it don't come down to nothing other than the mental capacity that we couldn't take, and it really came down to, you got two options. Which sport do you love more? And at that time, basketball winning, and it's still winning to this day. That's just how it is. But in that, we had to give up track to really go forward with basketball. We came back to it, which again is another topic. This is not about that. But just being able to, I don't want to say that there's nothing wrong with quitting, but you gotta, like the mother said, you gotta quit for the right reason. The reason why we quit track was because of the mental capacity, and we just honestly, we love basketball more. That is the right reason to quit a sport. Isn't that what she was saying, Deasia? I know I chose on a good day. Can you say you chose? And it's not even just to sports. What is she saying? If it's a job, if it's a task, don't give up when it gets hard. Quit when it's easy. When you really have a clear mind. Yeah. Don't lean into your emotions of it. What do you think she was really trying to tell her? Yeah, I'm thinking what she trying to say is, don't ever, it's simply what you said, Sarah. You can't forget why you started this sport. You started it because you wanted to get to that mountaintop and get to that podium. If you quit now, you will never get there. For somebody that is their true love, you can't never give up. In fact, you got to use sports to take you to the next level. Let's be honest. Everybody is not going to go pro in sports. But what sports just do for you is it separates you from somebody who's not doing it. It gives you all those tough skills. You need competitiveness. You need teamwork. You need this mental capacity that we talking about. And that's what sports does for you. It allows you to have mental stamina, mental endurance that you need to get through anything. When you look at us and probably some other people, Sierra, what's the difference? It's that we work harder, and my mental capacity is just better because I've already dealt with a coach that's telling me, yeah, you still not doing that spin move right, or you still not hitting that shot consistently, or in fact, I don't even think you could shoot. And what do I got to do, Sierra? Go prove them wrong that I'm telling you I'm really the best shooter on this team. And that's what it comes down to. And that's not being cocky. That's just being realistic. That's what sports also teaches you. You got to be realistic with yourself. Do you have to work harder? It's no if, ands, buts about it. Do you have to work harder? That's a question about mental health. Can you be honest with yourself? Yeah. She talked about, the type of things that she will have to do. And that's what I took away from what you just said. You have to take yourself, or you have to find that sports has brought you to it has given you a different characteristics that can take you in life. But one thing I want to share is she talked about how she will have to just be in a moment of a bubble. Like nothing outside of that bubble on the competing floor during competition. She got to let this stuff like bounce off of her. She had to stay in the moment. She cannot get caught up in the crowd or caught up in what somebody else is doing. Caught up in maybe she did wiggle there. She had to stay in her bubble in order to execute through all of those events or all of those routines. And what is crazy, DH, this is stuff that they will practice over and over and over again. And can't we relate to that? You practice it over and over and over again. But DH, what did you have to do? What did your bubble look like? Well, I would say one thing about the bubble is it's always tough when your bubble is like the person next to you got their bubble of their own, and you very heavily judged with whatever Sierra is doing. I'm getting judged on it too. So that also puts you at a heightened level of I need to get better. I must improve. But sometimes our dad would like say, yeah, Dede, you didn't have a good game. Sierra, you played great. You played really good, or vice versa. He'll say, Sierra, you didn't do good today. your shot was not on, and then Dede, oh, you was getting to the basket, you was doing well. Those type of things. So compliments for Sierra, that had to stay outside of my bubble. That had nothing to do with me, and I'm pretty sure she felt the same way.
Yeah.
And I saw Sierra in a lot of accomplishments, that things that I never got. All that could do was that was great for her, but for me, I just got to keep working harder. And I think that's what you're trying to say, that those compliments or these words, or even it could be good or bad, that doesn't deter your path of I have to improve. If you want to get to the next level of anything, and for her, that's on that podium, you got to stay the course. You can't let these little comments, whether that's accomplishments, whether great job, or that wasn't a great day for you, that stuff got to hit you and keep moving. I could listen to Sierra getting complimented about something, or it could be a compliment for myself. Okay, thank you. I have to have, like, you know what they say, Sierra, selective amnesia. I even still need that today. In school, you still got to have that. Oh, you passed the boards. Oh, you did great. Guess what? Another one is coming. There's nothing, like, you get what I'm saying, Sierra? Attending could tell me today, oh yeah, great job in the surgery. But what about tomorrow? It's always something else. Sports taught me that you have to have a one-track mind of, thank you, I did good, gotta keep moving. You can't get stuck in your accomplishments. Yeah, I think that's exactly, Deja, without reading the book, that's a great analysis of what she is trying to say. Because imagine you are on a competition floor and you just saw somebody put up a huge number. Simone Biles is that on that competition floor. Sonny Lee. This is the greatest USA American team that has been, Deja. They outscored like the closest team in the past Olympics by like 5 or 6 points, which is a huge. It had never happened again. So that's how dominant they were. So imagine in your bubble, like you said, Deja, you watching me in my bubble. Imagine her watching Simone Biles in her bubble. And they had very drastic ways of how they will get ready. So she got to stay in her bubble. Not even the competition floor. That's another thing. As they getting ready. And I told you this quote before. It's like a face that they have to put on. Simone Biles in her bubble, or the face that she would put on, it would be a lot of music. She would love to, get ready, pumped up. Jordan Chiles would do their hair. And they would blend that. But they would have to lock in a different way. What was our Deja? How would you explain the face that we had to put on for basketball? What was the face? And when I say that, it's just me actually saying, how did you prepare for the moment, the competition, amongst a huge competitor? I already knew if I was going to have a good game. If we got there really early, say the game started at 7, Sierra. We got to that game by 5. That means on the court, we probably coming in when the janitor's coming in. And then we figure out what court we on. And then they start letting us take up shots. If I'm able to take up 100 shots, Sierra, before the game even starts, I know this game going to be a walk in the park. So I think that was like my game face. Let me get up as many shots as I could. And then anytime when I was able, don't let me get in this gym before you, Sierra, an hour ahead. This game going to be so easy for me, And that's just me. I'm not being cocky in that statement at all. I'm a shooter. So what do shooters got to do? They got to shoot. If you let me get to that court and to that gym early, Sarah, and get shooting, I don't need no game face. I'm just ready. My game face. Don't let me warm up. Please don't let me warm up. And I think that was literally her saying, her shedding light on them literally putting on their game face. And we can all relate to that. It's a moment in any sport. I would go as far as to say, Deja, anything that you do that requires a lot of pressure, there's a moment where you put on a game face. I'm sure you do it in surgery now. But what has prepared you? Sports. Yeah. It's a moment where you literally put on your game face and you get focused. Where now you're locked in. It doesn't matter. What do you do? It's something that we all do when we're faced with a moment of pressure. And we have to get going. And that's what she was talking about. Yeah, like I'm saying, Sierra, it's just a warm-up for me. It's something that I still think about now if I'm about to go into a surgery. And the night before, I'm probably thinking about the case. Okay, these are the steps. Okay, these are the tools that I might be asked about. This is the anatomy that I might be asked about. That's kind of like my warm-up. I don't have no game face. Don't let me warm up. Because if you let me warm up, I ain't nothing to play with. And that's just being honest, Sierra. You know that. That's a fact. If I get warmed up, what's going to happen? But anyway, it's a few more things that I want to highlight when it comes to this book, because I just think it's just such a huge talking piece. And I want to encourage any young woman, period, if you're going after something, to read this book. It's not just her breaking down gymnastics. It's her breaking it down of how to get over the journey. DH, I love this part where she talked about at the end of the book of how Sunny Lee, her friend, her dear friend, and actually her teammate for 2 Olympic cycles, had beat her for a spot to compete for the all-around medal, right? So only two athletes per team. So the USA, it didn't matter how well the USA, they were so dominant all around, right? So of course, Jordan could have placed, but that's not how it is. Only 2 can go. So Sunny had beat her, and of course Simone had the first spot. Sunny had beat her by literally a thin hair of a margin, right? And so she was chosen to compete for the all-around, her and Simone. Not chosen, earned to compete. So Jordan Chiles said, it wasn't that I wasn't happy for her, because I was happy for her. I was just sad for myself. And that, Deasia, I had to highlight that, because in anything you do, how do you literally sit? How do you literally, yes, you are happy for, Deasia, it's just been so many times. I'm happy that you won that race. I'm happy that you accomplished this. But I am sad that I didn't. And this is even in life. If you didn't get a job, Deasia, or didn't get that promotion, and this could be your close friend, how can you be happy? You happy for them, but let's acknowledge the equal emotion that you're just disappointed and sad for yourself. And isn't that human? She said, she ended that, went on to the next sentence. We all do that. Like, this is something that we all face. That emotion, like we all are stumped with this. So, Deasia, without having read the book, how can you imagine that felt? And have you ever faced that? Of course I faced it. I'm looking at one of your trophies right now, and I never got the opportunity to get it. Sierra, we already talked about this on our very first episode, how she got the opportunity to go play at the Junior WNBA. And can you imagine this? Like, this is just something like you put your name in a hat. It's like in a hat that's moved across the world. And this is the time where the internet didn't exist. Our granddad literally recorded her on a video camera one Saturday in some park district in the city, and I was there just watching Sierra, and in the back of your head, you thinking like, oh, come on, let's hurry up and get out of McDonald's. This ain't going nowhere. That's really, you probably even thought, I'm just doing this. He just recorded me. And who knew that this was going to make it to wherever it was supposed to be, and she got chosen. I remember when she told me, yeah, they picked me. In my back of my head, I'm like, dog, she got chosen. I'm so happy for her, but at the same time, I'm disappointed with myself. Like, how could you not get that opportunity? So I'm just like, oh, okay, Sierra going. That means next year I'm gonna get to go. If Sierra can do it, I can do it. That's what I thought, right, Sierra? But at the main point of me, I was happy for you, overjoyed, elated, all those emotions. I probably was the most happy for you, because that's like 1 in a million. But then at the same time, I'm like, dog, this is why it sucks to be a twin. You're not going to get chosen. Like, you weren't chosen. I had to watch that whole week of nothing but Sierra. Sierra this, Sierra that, Sierra this, Sierra that. I wanted to scream. And this ain't just no one-off. This happened with Sierra all the time. This is how good she is. In basketball and anything, Sierra is a dog. It's always like that. Oh yeah, Deasia, you gotta get better. And my dad, he was very hard on me. He knew Sierra was 2 times better than me, but he wanted to push me to get as good as her. But it was because of stuff like this, that Junior WNBA, that just put her on a whole nother pedestal that I had yet to reach. And then to think that my granddad had the opportunity to put my name in the hat the next year, and guess what? He didn't do it. I never got that opportunity. But can you imagine that? Imagine the hurt when I found out I wouldn't have had an opportunity to ever do it, because you only got 2 years with the junior WNBA. And guess who got it? Sierra. And I was happy for her, but at the same time, like Jordan Chiles say, didn't we all have that feeling? And I had that feeling for a whole week and then some, because this was my whole life. My twin, my whole life was almost better than every single thing I did. Don't listen. No, that's just Sarah. We just gonna be honest. I'm okay with it. That's the thing. I'm okay with it because it makes me better than the next person. But the point that we're trying to make is, and I appreciate everything you say. Yeah, take it. You just take the compliment. I appreciate what you're saying. But it is like you know that. Be honest. Wasn't it like that? It was like that. You could see it in my eyes. Could you see it in my eyes that week? Sierra. You know, I have faced that when it comes to YouTube. So everything that she says, I say, and ain't that a perspective shift? That's just perception. It depends how you look at it. And that's what she's saying. It depends how you look at it, because you're looking at like I'm to beat, but I'm looking at you're to beat. But if we ever just look at ourselves, look inside, then we would validate ourselves. But the thing about it is how she had to not stay in that moment is because they was on the Olympic stage. They were going for a team medal. So they had to come together quickly. They had to come together. And isn't that what we had to do, Dede? We can't always be at odds that you are my competition. We have to find a way to work together to make everybody else better. Yeah, and that's the goal of working with people even beyond sports. Now, there's a few other things that we can say all this for sports, but I do want to get in the validity of the medal, because that was at risk. And then I do want to talk about this. This is a direct quote from the book, Deasia, and you have some expertise to this, so please give me your thoughts. Sticking a landing, and this is on page 119. Sticking a landing is so difficult, and coming down hard like that is tough on our bodies. In the old days, a step back with one foot was allowed, but that changed in 2008. It's been speculated that the rise in Achilles injuries might stem from that. So since 2008, on the mat in a floor routine, I don't even know if it's just a floor. Yes, in the floor routine, they could not take that step back because it contributed to a rise in Achilles injuries. So they had to you had to land a 2-foot landing. You couldn't take that step back. That was deducted. That's what she's saying. So what is your medical expertise on that? We talked about the Achilles in the last episode, but now we're seeing it that this is all over gymnastics. How many times have we watched them in floor passes? They do step back, but imagine every day, day after day, day after day, day after day. So what can you say about that? Well, it's basically exactly what we saw in the NBA. That negative step, that step back, it's a powerful step. And I hate to say it, it's an unfortunate step because it's leading to injuries. And we saw it in basketball. We saw it on the TV. Now in this book, it's literally saying that they take that step back and that caused injury. It's like they're saying it's illegal because they're trying to protect the athlete. Okay, yeah, that's exactly, we saw that. See, the negative step, you saw Halliburton do it. He took a negative step back. Now this book is saying if you take a step back, it's illegal because it has caused injuries. Well, it's the same step. Just think. Achilles here is taking on a lot of force. Every step you take, that Achilles has to maintain a certain amount of, force from them steps. Imagine you jumping. Like, that's why sometimes I always tell somebody, you see when you training your athletes here and I see them, what do I always scream out? Like, make sure you're protecting your Achilles. Like, watch the Achilles doing jumps and just doing stuff that doesn't make sense. You have to make this stuff make sense. And that negative step there, what this gymnastic league is saying is it doesn't make sense because it's causing injuries. Yeah. And it's dangerous. It's some of these athletes, the injuries they face, that might have been it for them, in gymnastics. It's that traumatic. Some of them have ended their careers. But do you think that gymnastics is ahead of some sports and that they are taking this dangerous step or these dangerous movements out of? Do you think there's room for other sports to follow? Well, I like that gymnastics is doing. I don't see how you could do that in basketball. But I'm just saying in other... Yeah, I mean... Is it ways to protect the athlete? Well... It's just making them enlightened about. That's why what I'll say the ways to protect the athletes is if the NBA could have more doctors in foot and ankle surgery or just in sports medicine. I'll just say that know about these negative steps and know about the impact on Achilles. Why not bring these doctors in at the games or even at practices, going back and just like how the players are looking over like the gameplay, let these doctors go back and look at, okay, we had 10 negative steps in the game, and instead of bringing the players, they have their moments where they talking about how they can improve in the game. That's fine. What about having the doctors come in and talking about, hey, these was a couple injury prone things that you kept doing throughout the game, with an individual player that's probably already facing injuries. Let's just eliminate some of this stuff. Just making them aware of that. That's not changing their game in any way. Hey, if you got to keep doing that, do it. But I'm just letting you know that maybe instead of doing that, why not try something else? Because this one is causing injuries. What that gymnastics league said, we're just going to give you a penalty. I don't think you can do that in NBA or the WNBA, but I think you could easily have some type of doctor in sports medicine and sit these athletes down after a game and say, look, these were 3 negative steps you did, or look at this landing. Look at this move. I'm not changing no game, Sierra. You can't change a game. You're not asking them. You're just saying, like, be aware of this. If you keep doing this long term, at the end of the season, we might be facing an injury. The doctors in the NBA should be doing this. Maybe they are already. I don't know. My aspiration is to just one day be one of those doctors in the WNBA, being able to look at how can we help you all prevent injuries? Or if you had injury, let's go back and look at the tapes. I can't be afraid to watch how this occur because the next time we got to prevent it. Yeah. And that's what the WNBA, that's what the NBA can do. And that's actually what that's what the NFL can do. The gymnastics is doing it their way, but I don't think you can penalize certain sports with that. Okay, speaking of gymnastics, they do stuff their way. And this is where we just going to end on she talked about when it came down to this medal, Dede, it came down to her, the bronze medal. And the reason why it's up in the air in some conversations, and we won't say this one because Jordan Chiles, that's your medal girl. But in some conversations, the reason why it's up in the air is because some stuff that pretty much Romania did, some backdoor stuff to try to negate that all-black podium and also to get not just the 4th place up into the podium, to get the 5th place up into the podium. The 5th place athlete, she was related to somebody high in the gymnastics world who had the know-it-all to push for, to push to see pretty much all of this, why the medal is even in question. It's because Jordan Chiles and Simone Biles' coach had questioned the difficulty of a move that she did to give her some points back. And you have to do that within like a minute and 30 something. Don't quote me, but it's like a short amount of time from when the routine ends, the floor routine. The Netflix segment that Simone Biles was actually recording showed that the coach had went in there in well enough time. But when whoever was down on the floor, when they had recorded it on the Olympic floor the day of, they said it was not enough time. So 3 days later, they tried to strip the medal. Now, all of this push came from the person in 5th place, whoever they was connected to pushed to get this medal stolen from her, right? Now, the gymnastics and the Olympics board, whoever had a chance to award Jordan Chiles with the bronze medal, but also award this girl with the bronze, somebody else, one of the athletes from Romania with the bronze medal as well. Right? They had a chance, but they said, we will not, because we must maintain the validity of the bronze medal. They must maintain the gold, silver, and bronze. We cannot have more than one bronze. What do you think about that, Dede? That's a fact that's a fact in the Olympics. That's a huge statement to make, and I think it's a valid statement. to maintain the validity of the bronze. That's valid. That is true. You cannot get around it. It's only 3 marks that you can get in the Olympics, and that's what makes it difficult. That's why these teams come to compete. I ain't saying that none of these athletes that come, all of them are trash. No, all of them are really good, but it's only gonna be 3 medalists. If the men's lose in basketball down there and they don't get a medal, you just don't get a medal. That's just a fact. It's nothing wrong with being top 8, but we know that top 3 gets the medal. Yes, you cannot take that away, and I can't change that. When I read that, I agree that you must maintain, because you do not want the Olympics to ever become we're awarding 5 people, let's award multiple bronze. No, that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes those moments so special. Now, I think you can have 2 golds. If some sports, they do have a tie. I don't understand the ones that do, but I think some of them, they do actually tie. But the reason why this fight pushed on Jordan Chiles, because there was actual footage that showed when her coach had, inquired about the difficulty. So right is right. Right is right. And let's just give a shout out to everybody in her corner, her coaches, her mom and dad who are pushing for this, and her. Imagine the pressure that she was under. You got to go into interviews and maintain that you are the bronze medalist. Imagine the type of poise that she has to have. And what I say is, it's not even about the medal, Deasia. She said it's about everything. It's not even the bronze. It's everything. They tried to strip everything. But when you work so hard, Deasia, she not just standing there for herself. This is for every Black girl that is watching, that we cannot let them take it away from us. She earned it. Deasia, what that tape showed is she earned it. What is your thoughts on that? Sarah, it's like anything. If you earn it, you deserve it. And it's heartbreaking to see something like that taken away. Yes. That's what I can say. It's heartbreaking because which you started this conversation with, if only you knew. You said that in that quote, like, if only you know, it wasn't just about this. This is not just about me going up here competing today and getting bronze. No, this is about all the work I had to do before today. That's what it's about. Because really, we've been talking about this whole time. Everything amounts to that moment. Yes. So that was what it was about. That's like throwing away her whole journey if she do that. No, you have to fight for it. Because did your journey mean that much? If so, fight for it. And that's what her family wants her to do. She deserves it. And it's heartbreaking to not. If she don't fight for it, I think something is wrong. Yes, everything that she is about is fighting and getting through adversity. And that's why I say, Deasia, she's a role model to this generation in the sport. But Deasia, she's just a generational talent, period. I think the way that she carries this, the way that she has carried her journey from college back into the Olympics, that can't be easy. So shout out to you, Jordan Chiles. I recommend this book to everybody, anybody, any young woman that wants to be inspired. Read her book and please share this. This book needs to be sold out. If it already isn't, I'm that girl. Go get it. Jordan Chiles, you did your big one. Yeah. So I'll just end with a couple funny questions and then we'll get into why did we have this whole episode about Jordan Chiles in this book. And these funny questions are only for you. Would you survive one day Olympic training with Jordan Chiles? Yes or no? No. I'm not even going to hold you. No, absolutely not. Okay, which event would you fake an injury to get out of? Would it be the vaults, the bars, the beam, or the floor? Which one would you act like you was injured so you wouldn't have to do it and compete that day? The beam. I'm not doing that. They say they hate it, so I absolutely can't. I absolutely wouldn't even look at the beam. But I think I would probably enjoy the bars. Okay, now you're walking out of your Olympic floor routine. What's your song that you choosing? You know how Jordan Chiles did Beyonce. What would you choose for your Olympic floor routine? I would choose, I'm going to play it. Sarah, you can't play music on this podcast. I think that's illegal. Just say it. I need to look up the name of the song because it's one of my hype songs. It's Dua Lipa, Don't Start Now. Okay. I don't know the song, so I can't comment. Okay. Well, everybody that's listening, y'all know that song. It's one of them songs that no matter what, if you run a mile, if you about to swim and you can't swim, and you think you could do anything with that song playing behind you. I would hope if you know you can't swim, you're not in the pool. I would hope that. Or you got a life jacket on. Okay, last question is, after reading this book, did you try a cartwheel? Were you inspired to try a cartwheel or backflip or, I don't know, even walk in a straight line? Because we know it wasn't to be. No, I haven't tried a cartwheel, but I like that question a lot.
Well, go try one.
This book has, it has inspired. It's one of those books that it inspired you to keep going. That's what she's saying. I think she has on one part of this book, always believe in the power of your dreams. And I love that. And that's what I mean by keep going. And dreams, they can change. You can always pivot. But don't stop dreaming and know that they're powerful. Okay, I like that. We'll end it there with Sierra talking about her dreams. And, this is what this episode was about. We did our D-Robes. Now this is Jordan Chiles. We talked about her controversies. We talked about the accomplishments that she has. What she's still striving for. She's still trying to get back on that podium. And she is who she says she is. She's that girl. But why we did all of this is because not only to highlight her, but this is the first of several episodes like this because we're going to start our book club, which is, I put book club in quotation marks because it's more than just a book club. We're going to review some articles, sports articles. We might even do some documentaries here and there, but it's all going to be mostly sports related. And if it's not sports related, it's about inspiration and motivating you all, our fans and people that's listening in with us, because we want to be motivated. As you can see, we're about mental health and staying positive. So that's it. We're going to be discussing another book. We're going to drop it on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You're going to be able to see what book we're reading or what article we're interested in at that time. And we're going to discuss it every 2 months from now. So we're going to give y'all a lot of time to think about it, to digest it, to have some thoughts, to get in the chat with us. And that's what we want y'all to do. Chat with us. Tell us what you think about this, about these episodes. And don't forget, please support Jordan Chiles on I'm That Girl. Give us some insights in the chat of how you feel about it. Chat with us. Follow us on TikTok. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on our podcast. You can reach us at any podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, especially Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and all of that. But thank you all for listening, and it's been a great episode, and it's nothing lightly.